Ladies and gentlemen, do you want to change your life today? Not tomorrow, not next month. Not someday when things calm down. Today. Because here's the truth. Your life doesn't change when the calendar flips. It doesn't change because you got inspired for 5 minutes. It changes when you make a decision right now that you are done living below your potential. If you're waiting for the perfect moment, you've already lost. There is no perfect moment. There is only now. This moment, this breath is your opportunity to draw a line in the sand and say, enough. You have to decide what you're no longer willing to tolerate in your life. That's where change begins. Not in your hopes, not in your wishes, in your standards. Ask yourself, what have I been settling for? Is it the body you're in, the income you make, the relationships you stay in out of fear instead of love? Because the moment you raise your standards is the moment your identity starts to shift. You begin to think differently, speak differently, move differently. And that's not just motivation. That's rewiring the very structure of who you believe you are. Listen, people don't change their lives by dabbling. They change when they get crystal clear on what they want and attach pain to staying the same. Emotion is what drives transformation. If you associate enough pain to your current limitations and enough pleasure to your future, you will break through. But knowledge alone is not power. It's only potential power. You must act now, because if you don't, your brain will convince you to stay safe, to delay, to shrink, and nothing changes until you do. You don't need to wait for confidence. Confidence is the reward of taking action, not the requirement. You build belief by doing the thing you thought you couldn't do, again and again, until the impossible becomes your normal. Who do you want to be? Because you don't get what you want. You get what you are. If you want to change your life, stop trying to upgrade your behavior while holding on to an outdated identity. You are not your past. You are not your failures. You are not your story unless you keep telling it. The future doesn't lie back there. Decide today who you are. Are you someone who settles? Or are you someone who rises? It's not about external circumstances. It's about internal standards. You don't need more time. You need more urgency. You don't need to be more ready. You need to be more hungry. So the question isn't, can you change is, will you? Right now. This very second, you can make a choice that will redefine the trajectory of your entire life. The only thing standing between the life you have and the life you want is the decision to act. Not later. Not when it's convenient. Today. So, do you want to change your life? Then, don't just think it. Don't just say it. Live it. Change begins the moment you decide that your current standards are no longer acceptable. That's where the breakthrough starts. Not in some massive earth-shaking event, but in a quiet moment of raw honesty. When you finally say to yourself, I'm done living like this. That's the spark. That's the ignition point. Because real transformation isn't triggered by motivation. It's born from dissatisfaction. Think about it. Every powerful change you've ever made in your life began when you got fed up with the status quo. You hit a point where what you were tolerating became more painful than the fear of change. Maybe it was the relationship that drained your soul. Maybe it was the job that made you dread waking up every morning. Maybe it was looking in the mirror and realizing the person staring back at you wasn't someone you respected anymore. That moment, when you looked life in the eye and said, this ends now, that's where power is born. Because here's the reality: people don't change when they can. People change when they must. When staying the same becomes unbearable. When what used to be fine becomes intolerable. When your internal thermostat says, this is not who I am anymore, that's when you rise. That's when you shift. So what does it mean to raise your standards? It means you no longer negotiate with mediocrity. It means you refuse to let your life be dictated by comfort. It means you take full ownership of your results, your emotions, your energy, your outcomes. No more blaming the economy, your childhood, or your circumstances. You say, if my life is going to change, it starts with me. We all have standards. Some people have standards for just getting by. Some people have standards for surviving. Others have standards for excellence. The difference in results comes down to one thing: what you're willing to accept. What you allow is what will continue. If you've been stuck, if you feel like your life is on repeat, if your goals never turn into outcomes, it's not because you're not capable. It's because you haven't required more from yourself. You've wished for more. You've talked about it. But wishing is weak. Wishing has no weight. It's standards that shape your destiny. Look around your life. Everything you have right now, your health, your bank account, your relationships, your habits, is a reflection of your current standards. Not your dreams, not your intentions, your standards. You will always live in alignment with what you believe is acceptable. And the moment you say, this is no longer acceptable, that's when your behavior changes. If you're tired of being tired, tired of starting over, tired of making promises to yourself that you never keep, it's time to decide. Not hope, not plan, decide. Decide that this is the day where your standard shifts. Where what used to be good enough is now not even close. When you raise your standards, life will test you. Challenges will rise. Resistance will appear. You'll be tempted to settle, but that's when your new standard must become non-negotiable. You don't raise the bar and then lower it when it gets uncomfortable. You hold it. You live by it, even when no one is watching, especially when no one is watching. Because the difference between people who transform their lives and people who talk about it comes down to this: the ones who transform demand more from themselves. They don't tolerate excuses. They don't lower their goals to match their environment. They elevate their behavior to match their vision. So if you want to change, stop asking, what do I want? And start asking, what will I no longer tolerate? That one question has the power to shift everything. When you set a new standard, your brain begins to search for new actions, new patterns, new strategies that match that level. You don't need more information. You need a new identity. You need to decide, this is who I am now. And once that's in place, once the new standard is burned into your nervous system, life begins to move. Momentum builds. Confidence rises. Opportunities appear. Why? Because you stopped waiting to feel ready and you decided to raise the bar. The first step to changing your life today is not a new tactic. It's not another book or seminar or plan. It's the moment you draw a hard line in your mind and say, this is the new me. That old story is over. That version of me is gone. Raise your standards and your life will rise to meet them.